5 after 10, and we'll call the November meeting for the Human Health and Human Services Board together. First item will be approval of the agenda as presented.
Move.
Madam Secretary, motion approved. Any discussion on the agenda, additions, corrections? Pardon?
You're just wondering. Go ahead.
Oh, all in favor, say aye. Carried. Approval of the minutes of October 12th, 21 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 12th meeting.
Madam Secretary, you got that? Kelly and Leva. Any discussion on the past minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Carried. Public comment. Joe, by the way, Joe Deming is excused. Haven't heard anything. Have you, Tanya? Have you heard anything from Rita or anybody else?
No, I have not.
We did hear from Ms. Duncan.
Grant thought that she might,
Oh, she did, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she might be on. I don't know if she did.
yeah, she was questionable if she would be able to hear or.
We'll catch up on that, Madam Clerk. Any public comments? Ted? Nobody registered? Okay, we'll move on to COVID-19 update, and Tanya, we're going to turn that over to you.
Yes.
Want me to share that, Tanya, then?
No, I'll just wing it here. Do a verbal report. But we do have a video to show. So our cases are going back up again. That's not good news, but we are seeing a little bit of an uptick in positive cases. Testing has been busy over at the drive-through clinic, over at the highway shop. We are having our vaccine, our booster clinics, drive-through style. So we have a big one coming up this Friday. I think we're planning on doing 800 booster shots. So that'll be a good thing. And then we've got other ones sprinkled throughout the rest of the month. So November is a really big vaccination month for us for booster shots and for flu shots. So we've got the nursing staff that's going around to the schools giving flu shots. We also have clinic here doing flu shots. So just about any type of a flu shot that you want, you can get with us. The vaccination total for the state is running around 55%. We're always slightly behind at 49% here in Polk County. The number who have received at least one dose is 62%, which is good because that means that people are floating in here and getting their first doses and hopefully following up with their second dose. So yeah, we do have 200 slots open yet, and they are filling up pretty fast for the Friday clinic, and that's a Moderna clinic. Slowly but steady sign up for Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer boosters. We've got plenty of vaccines, so we're not worried about that. And then Pfizer is still looking at the EUA for 5 to 11-year-olds, hopefully approved next week. So we would look at doing 5 to 11s as well for Pfizer.
How many total cases do we have?
October, we have 931. September was 849. Down, and then August was 200. Took a pretty good jump in September, and then just.
Question, are you approved? Are you giving the maternal, how do you pronounce that? Maternal booster shots?
Yep, this Friday. You can go
Starting
through
Friday?
Let us know if you want help signing up.
I can get that Friday. Where at?
We're at the highway shop.
And we just sign up there as,
I'll get you signed up.
okay.
Like me.
Sure.
I'll take care of you.
Otherwise, I'll have to do it in Arizona next week. I'd rather have you do it.
Yeah, then you get to see the drive-through.
What are we at for positivity? Is it just
I don't have the positivity rates.
Okay.
Um,
I can look.
I was gonna say also, you can do your mix and match with your boosters now through the health department. So you had your first 2 series was Moderna, you can get Pfizer, and you can mix and match. If you do have questions, we are having you consult with your medical provider if you don't know what you should do. Otherwise, people are pretty much just sticking with Moderna, just to make it easy.
So would you suggest that I get the Moderna booster too?
You,
I would.
I would,
There's Doug, there's
I'm getting my Moderna booster tomorrow.
I'll definitely get it. I have a few calls on that, so I know what.
okay, yeah, just come and see me after and we'll make sure.
Yeah.
We, I was hoping that the health department would write a weekly short note sent to the leader and put it in the paper every week, how many new cases we're having, what the percentage of positivity is. In an effort to try to get more people vaccinated.
Mhm.
To try to get them motivated. Because I know that there's concern with the Moderna vaccine for young men getting myocarditis, which is an inflammation of their heart, and even countries are limiting that vaccine to young men. On the other hand, there's lots of folks who are getting myocarditis from the infection,
COVID.
from COVID.
Or any virus.
Or any virus. You can get it from a flu virus. And so it's kind of like, and this morning, I again listened to David from county, and he said, we don't know what the long-term effects of the long-term COVID are going to be. Lots of folks and I have people who were infected in January and are having all kinds of health problems. Heart is pumping at about half or about 2/3 of what it should be, and it's just they don't realize that getting the illness is much worse than the vaccine. I think that's what we should be emphasizing in our news releases every week. This is how many we've had in Polk County. Should do.
Yeah, we can look at the press release.
Try to get some press releases out every week.
So you can do that, Tanya. I mean, so some people are concentrating, well, there's this and that effects of the vaccine. Well, now to expand on that, now you can also say there's effects from the unknown effects from COVID too.
And
Myocarditis from
Yeah, either way, from any virus.
we are doing quite a bit of marketing push right now for vaccine, and Kathy has a video that we can show that we received a grant, an outreach grant for vaccine. So we hired a film company to come in and make a video that we'll be pushing out. We're on the radio stations. You've probably seen the ad in the yellow paper. So we're getting every medium that we can to push the vaccine.
Your ad on the radio is very,
Hold on, I need to share my screen so they can see it. I didn't realize.
To share it for the other people
Where's
on
this
the.
going?
I am not exactly sure. It's on our Facebook page, on the website, the local TV stations. I think they'll reach out to the movie theater when they're open. Yeah, right.
That's ready to be shared off of our website. I mean, our Facebook page.
Kathy,
Um,
can confirm that. I know they were working with the movie theater to get that up and
Yep,
running.
we finalized the contract with the movie theater for it to run in at the movie theater. It is on, if you go to the public health website page, we actually have a YouTube page and it is on there, I believe.
Yeah, so we can check with
Yeah.
Caleb and find out where else he's listed it.
Thanks for being a part of that. That's awesome.
Mhm. I was not an actress. They didn't ask me, so.
You said movie theaters also?
yes.
It'll be, before the movie starts, they have the ads.
I think that's wonderful.
Can you share us the link? Just email us the link. And then I can-
It's really, and it's well done.
Any other questions on COVID?
Are you gonna go into the GM update?
Yeah, yes, Dana. So I know, they are dealing with some COVID stuff down there right now, so she might not be able to.
We just gonna skip that or?
Yeah, if that's okay with you.
Maybe she'll come on phone later or something.
Yeah, Andy's here though. He can give his update.
Ready for me?
Yep, we are.
All right.
So not much updates from my department, business as usual. Although one kind of interesting thing this past weekend, we had a dedication ceremony for a Civil War veteran. So Worthy Prentice, I don't know if anybody's ever heard the name, but he's from the Clayton, Clear Lake area. Buried in the Clear Lake Cemetery, and he was identified as the last Civil War veteran buried in Polk County. So the commander from Madison's Sons of Civil War Veterans came up Saturday, and we had military honors and a flag dedication. So it was really interesting. There were 4 identified descendants or family members that attended as well. So just a really neat dedication ceremony.
Kathy,
Worthy Prentice. Yeah, the main street in Clayton is named after him. So after the Civil War, he returned back to Polk County, and I believe he was, a farmer and an engineer, and I believe he designed the layout or the city of Clayton. So that's why Main Street is named after him.
You get some pretty good press reaction on that?
I know that, so the Clear Lake American Legion Post, they were there, they're the ones that provided the honors. They took a bunch of pictures that they were going to supply to the press. Outside of that, I didn't see anyone or no one identified as the press, so I'm unsure if there was anyone from the paper that was physically there.
It would be nice if, some of these, stories from some of these reporters, radio or television or something, that'd really make a nice story from the Civil War.
Yeah, absolutely.
About as unique as I've ever heard.
Yep, and I notified the Polk County Historical Society in advance as well. And also there's an upcoming event on November 13th at Brow Time. It's in recognition of World War II veterans. So there's a fundraising event. I believe tickets are sold out, but sounds like it'll be a good time as far as they've identified, or we helped identify some World War II veterans that hopefully can attend safely, of course, just to kind of recognize them in their service. And then sounds like there's going to be like a 1940s swing band that's going to be performing. So silent auctions should be a good time.
Do you have any monitor of how many Civil War veterans we have in the county yet?
I don't, not at least that I'm aware of. There could be an old file somewhere in my office that I haven't identified at this point, but I would think that the Polk County Historical Society has good record of that.
They do. I just don't remember what the number is off the top of my head. They know that. I just don't, they have a list of all those veterans.
Can't be a lot of them left.
Well, there's not left, but there's the
World
ones
War
from
II,
World
there's-
War II, there's gonna be 4 or 5 of them at the event, and one gentleman's 103, and he works out 3 days a week, but he's gonna be there. He's real excited about it. And they're,
Bill Pat,
what?
Bill Pat,
Oh, I don't know I don't know the names of them all, but
he was a pilot out of Italy.
From Osceola.
oh, there's one from Osceola. There's one from,
Frederick or Luck, I
yeah,
believe.
Frederick.
Bill
Came through our vaccine line and was in the news.
Oh,
Yeah.
Somebody with that fun car?
Yes.
Yes, I know exactly who that
Yep.
is.
You come through it?
His caregiver,
Yeah.
she has a pretty wild car.
And they were just
And
like
wild
partying through the
processing.
line and there was
They were-
honking. We thought there was an issue and they were like, woo-hoo.
I think it, is it
Well, that's good conversation. If anybody has any info on, sure want to honor.
they're gonna do some special things to honor them. They've got pictures of them in their uniforms that are blowing up.
Do they do like the cardboard cutouts?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they've got that and they've got, and they're gonna be, they're gonna do a little program.
So this was originally planned to take place back in 20, then it,
Last
no,
year.
it was 2020, and then it got basically canceled because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Did you say tickets are sold out?
I believe so, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, but if you're really big, we might be able to squeeze some more in. I think we've sold like 232 tickets or something like that. And we have I was just talking to John about this, a 4-star general who retired in 2019, who lives in St. Paul. He's going to be the keynote speaker. And he was in charge of all the Middle East area and stuff, but he has a real passion for World War II. So his topic when he's talking, is going to be about World War II and his knowledge of World War II. And then Bob Swanson, who farms in Eureka, all last winter, he spent hours and hours at the museum getting the military exhibit updated. And he's now selected different pieces that we're going to have on display out at Brow Time. And we were just finishing some of that up yesterday. It's going to be pretty interesting stuff. I mean,
Is there going to be any of the World War II era vehicles? I know like Tom was working on trying to arrange.
he's got a Jeep and another fella has a vehicle. And he's got some other plans. I don't know if some of that will materialize, but the Jeeps will be there. And we're going to have uniforms from each branch that are at the dry cleaners right now. And, so there's going to be a lot of interesting things to see. The whole event should be fun.
Aaron, that is a fantastic update. One thing I like about our meeting, to bring up some things that interesting.
Well, and it's interesting how you don't realize in your community until you go out and start searching, people that have all this knowledge and this, like Bob Swanson, did such a good job. With it, he farmed for years and he sold his dairy herd now, so he has more time in the wintertime. And he just loves what going in and doing some of that. So now we're in the process of selecting what our theme will be for next year's when we open next spring. And we haven't decided, we got a couple things in mind, but you try to make it interesting about Polk County in particular. So see.
Yeah, it's really fascinating as far as just some of the veteran, especially World War II, being in my role, some of the stories and battles. And I mean, Polk County is very fortunate and rich with veterans as far as per capita, we do have a large veteran population. It's just one of the greatest things about my job is, getting to know some of these veterans. It's like we had one veteran who passed last year. He was on the USS Indianapolis. And he was in the Battle of Midway. It's just unbelievable, significant historical events that people in our community have been part of.
I think one of the veterans that's going to be there on the 13th was on the ship when they signed the peace treaty with Japan. And he was Missouri, yeah. He was on the ship. Signed it. So yeah, interesting things. And we have a lot of interesting displays. The the elementary kids that were at the Lanesdale School for, they do that, school, prairie school, one-room school thing they can sign up for in the summertime, and then they come through the museum. And then they write letters to the museum board on what they enjoyed at the museum. And one said, he really enjoyed the Hitler pincushion. Because there's a Hitler pincushion where he's bending over and you could stick your pins in there. But, it's funny when kids fight, because who knew that was even in the museum, that kind of stuff. But cool little things like a Bible this tall and about this wide, and the outside is made of steel. So it was protected, when they were in the fighting. And a local man saved it and donated it. Just cool stuff like that. Oh, and things about the prisoner of war camp here in Polk County. Most people don't even know we had prisoners of war from mostly Germans that were here working at the Stokely Canning factory. So it's a lot of cool
The
stuff.
old Volga school was, be sure and thank, from our committee, Sharon, be sure and thank Bob Swanson.
Yeah.
Bonnie's very passionate about this.
So it's the key is finding those people like the Bob Swansons who really like, and like to focus on something, working in the museum and getting them in touch. So, and he's been really great for this military.
You got any questions for Andy about any events or?
Thank you for the update.
Absolutely.
Tanya, you,
So this is the administrator's budget and potential minutes.
Yeah, I think for this committee, in terms of the budget, 2 additional requests discussed already as far as remodeling of lobby for clients and also some storage space. That's been approved by myself, so that's already in the budget. What I have here are the ARPA projects. Well, that would, if you want to help, yeah, that'd be great. And I put this up here, and as you recall, we initially had the 5 categories. And now what I've done is just put a brief statement so that each committee can look at them and say, these pertain to us. We can have an open discussion. A lot of these, I'll be honest, it's a little bit of a moving target because some of the requests come in and they are simply, we want money funded for this. I even had one, Habitat for Humanity just said, hey, we're looking for a donation. How about 225,000, things like that. And so while those are all, every project is worthy, and that's, but what we have to do as a board is determine which of these are appropriate and which of these do we want to prioritize. On the front page, I'll just highlight the recycling center. Remember at the last board meeting, it already of the initial funds, 1.62 million has been approved for updating the recycling center. Since then, I know that there is another resolution that will be discussed at general government and at the board from Ms. Kelly regarding things that really I think are mostly infrastructure related, things that, I've even put many of them on the budget list for the board to approve or not. I left it up to your discretion. So things like the Justice Center roof at 1.1 million, third one down there on the front page, as well as the museum roof and the bell tower. Those are things that frankly probably have to be done. The question is, do we do them this year or next year, whatever? I put them on the list as themes that I thought would be appropriate for ARPA. So those are things in Sharon's. There are a couple of other items on there from Sharon's group as well. As for this committee, obviously, if you go to, I think it's page 4, you'll see some of them there dealing with health, safety. I know Ms. Middleton called with an idea of developing a website for farming/food businesses and marketing in Polk County. And you think about that, that's something that has been proposed now in front of the Environmental Services Committee to allow better marketing or a better potential for agribusinesses in this county. The small farmers who are having visitors, normally from the city, who say, my kids have never seen a farm. They don't know how to milk a cow. They don't know how to, grow anything, and they want to come spend a day or a weekend at agribusiness. Many of those on there are the public safety radio site. That's included in Sharon's proposal as well. The microwave radio system. Those are big ticket items that, I think are very important. I know Don is here if you have any questions. But if you go down there, some of these ideas, the mental health emergency housing, that one and the next one, inpatient treatment for drug and alcohol addiction. That was a recommendation by one of our, parole folks who said, boy, we really need this. No specific proposal, no specific amount, but it's an idea where they said, hey, those are important, which again, all of these are important. Challenge for the board is, how do we prioritize these things? And then on the back page are the local projects. I haven't gone into a lot of detail on those because, quite frankly, I think from the last board meeting, it was determined, let's go county centric first. Let's prioritize some. And then my thought being is that the local projects we can do once we identify where the initial $4.25 million goes, then it makes sense to say, first, let's make sure that we get the money. There's no guarantee that we'll get that next $4.25. But then we might consider the local project or not, because there are some very important needs up here in the front. Since then, and like I said, this is a moving target. I get requests. I was on vacation last week and I got requests during the week, and I asked the directors, if you have any great ideas, we need to develop these. I don't have it on here, but I know Tanya had a couple of items that she would mention as potential as well. The takeaway here before we go any farther is I'm going to ask you all to prioritize, because the natural tendency is everything on here is worthy. And what Tanya's going to talk to you about, you'll say, boy, those are good ideas. Let's do them. And everybody raises their hand. And so every committee I'm going to, like at the Environmental Services 2 weeks ago, they said, yes, let's do them all. Now this committee will say, yes, let's do them all. And the next committee will do the same thing, and we don't do it. So I'm going to ask you all to think about these and say, are these things worthy and important enough to be considered for ARPA funds? And if so, prioritize. Give us an idea what you think is really important, and then what is important but not as important, because we can't do everything. That's your challenge. You want to mention what you have, Tanya?
Sure. So we tasked our managers to come up with ideas that they had for improvements to the way they do business and the way we deliver services to the public ones that we serve. So one of the big ones that came through with full support from all managers is some type of enhancement to our electronic health record. And this touches all three areas, DCF, behavioral health, and public health, as well as the jail, because we're working on electronic health record. We could use some enhancements, improvements to it. We don't really have a cost, but if we would want that to be considered, so it makes us more efficient and helps to coordinate care between the three CSD units as well as the folks over at the jail.
Is there a price rough buffer?
It's hard to say. I think what the plan would be to have a couple of new companies come in and give us quotes based on what we have, and then we would look at our current electronic health record to see what they could do to match it. So, electronic health records can get pretty spendy pretty quick. But I would want to be able to have some actuals before I gave you, I don't know.
The current provider does not have any enhancements.
That's what we still need to check with them to see what the enhancements would be and what they would cost.
So that would like tie into, like if an officer was going out to someone's house, they get a call, that doesn't tie into that.
This is more related to the inmates at the jail because we provide nursing services over at the jail. So that
Okay.
coordination between,
So Tanya, our purpose today, being a week prior to our normal date, is there's anything that we need to put in resolution form to bring to the board meeting next Tuesday.
my understanding is that the ARPA money is separate from the budget. Is that, so
It is.
these are just considerations because my understanding is that the requests are coming in pretty quickly now. So we just want you guys to have something to think about, and if it rises to that level of
Yes.
importance, then they will make considerations for
So
it.
there is a resolution, Sharon's resolution, that will be discussed at general government, and I'm assuming at the board meeting. And we wanted this month, even though it's separate from the budget, wanted you all to see, here are different things out there, so you have an idea before you make a decision on Sharon's resolution, is to consider what else is out there. This might be, forgive me for editorializing here, but this might be a situation where, because ideas are getting generated all the time, we don't have the funding yet. So obviously it might be hard to say, yes, let's approve this with the ARPA funds when we don't know what it is, what's going to cost. It may be something though, after the first round of $4.25 million is designated, to say, is this something you want to include in going forward, the ARPA money? Or is that something that I want to consider next year in the budget for 2023? That type of-
Sharon's resolution is through the budget form, not ARPA form.
No, it's ARPA, much like what Fran Duncanson did at the last board meeting. She had a resolution for the recycling center, and it got approved. So the decision was made to go ahead with that.
So then we do not have a request for addition to the budget next Tuesday.
No, because those have already been approved by me.
This committee still has the opportunity to.
The Sharon's resolution.
Resolution says that, we spend a lot of time on, we have spent a lot of time already talking about how we're going to spend these ARPA funds. And I think we have enough things at the county level, this is just my thoughts, infrastructure wise, that need to be addressed. Like, for example, we did 1.6 million going to the recycling center. The Justice Center needs a new roof. If you look under the health one, health and safety, the sheriff's department, the microwave radio system it's becoming obsolete. It needs to be updated. Batteries need to be updated to the tune of 1.1 million. The radio site down in the valley area by St. Croix Falls and down in that area, officers, when they're down there, get calls down there, they can't respond by radio and stuff because there's not good enough signals down there. So they've got a solution by putting a tower in a certain place that they'll be able to do that, but that's going to be about $400,000. And the other thing I had on there was the museum bell tower and roof needs, structurally, it needs to have some work done, and we don't want to lose that. That's one of the key focuses on that building, and that needs repairs of about 150 million. And I guess I included that in there because I thought, let's get the things that look at spending. Here's 2.6 million. Now let's get these projects done.
So do you have that taken up with Malia on a resolution for.
Yep, and it goes to public safety and public works this afternoon. And then it goes to general government on Thursday. And then it goes to the board on the 9th. And all those agendas. So it'll be going through a couple committees.
So, yeah, and so this is not, we do have time on this thing, but we want to keep momentum going forward on ARPA funds. My commitment at the board meeting was is the next committee meeting, I would bring to you all the projects we have to date with a statement on each so that you can at least have them in front of you and say, make the argument, if you say this is something that has to be done right away, then you can make that resolution, or you can make a vote or a consensus here, take it to the general government, and then it would go to the committee.
I haven't read the minutes for our November 9th board meeting yet. You have a number on that resolution attached?
I do. 5721.
You talking about a monetary number?
Correct.
Yeah, the money is specifically designated to each of the projects on her resolution and spends down the remaining balance of the ARPA funds not already designated for the recycling.
Just for general information, do you know about how many resolutions we have next Tuesday?
We only have
You have this one.
we have the budget resolution and this one and one other going to environmental services tomorrow, which will be on.
Pretty good. Amy, did you have a question?
I'm trying to figure out sort of a process question, because we had the recycling one go through. Now, if we have this one taking up the remaining, then this committee and other committees don't really get a crack at submitting a resolution. And so it's sort of first to show. It's
Well- That's what's happened when we started with the recycling center.
yeah.
Okay.
So for instance, environmental health records, sounds great. What would that look like if we sponsored out of here, a resolution goes to the board? There's no money left, right? If this
Right.
resolution passes.
If that resolution passes, that would use that first 4.25 million. The next 4.25 million, assuming we get it, that's still available. So I think, and I can't speak for Sharon, but I think what this does is say, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and supervisors are getting bombarded with a lot of different things. Sharon has stepped up and Fran has stepped up and said, here are things that we think really need to be done for good reason, and it got approved. Recycling center. Sharon is saying, here's some other things to kind of sort through this. Otherwise, we're going to drag our feet for another year and a half, 2 years, arguing over what we're going to do. What I think these two supervisors have done is said, we think these things are important.
I think it's good. I mean, I like it. I like these projects, and I like the recycling center. I just worry that there's some committees left behind. Environmental Services doesn't have anything in the HRPA race. We don't have anything in. And so I'm trying to, it's almost like each committee should get a certain allocation or something, so it's fair.
Well, that's why we did it. If you recall, what the original discussion by the board was, rather than have each committee fighting with one another, let's do it all in committee of the whole. So that's really kind of what we're doing still. But what we wanted is for each committee to review these and be able to discuss them. And then if you guys want to make a consensus of this is what we want and when and how much, you can, and it will go in front of the general government committee and then go to the committee of the whole, and the committee of the whole decides.
So is this going to committee of whole, your resolution?
Next
Full
Tuesday?
board?
I don't think so.
It's a standalone.
It's a standalone resolution.
What happened with the recycling center resolution was that it was requested, it was drafted, it was placed on the agenda. One of two things could have happened. It could have been submitted to the committee of the whole to continue with this global process to whittle down, or the board did what they did and just said, nah, we're just going to skip everything as far as the whittling down. And I think that's now opened it up for individual supervisors or committees or to say, you know what, we think that we need, we can cut through all of the process and just get to some of these important things. So I think having that recycling resolution not get submitted then to the committee of the whole and rather just voted on, I think that was.
And that actually went to committee, didn't it? It went.
It did go to a committee.
Yeah.
It went to general government, right?
Well, Amy, I think you had a good question there because this 2.6 million, that's gonna pretty much take care of along with the recycling center.
Done, yeah.
And so that, you know, if you pass this as a package rather than maybe just some individual things, that pretty much eliminates any other request which might be duly important.
Is there any chance you can get us a number in the next 24 hours?
You could go off what we have estimated on there, I think.
I just wonder if we should go back to number 10.
I know you.
That is discussion of the budget and potential amendments. So do we need to get the amendments? If there's any amendments that you guys have to the budget, the 2022 budget, and then move on to the ARPA
And I
discussion.
think
Sorry, I
that's
jumped
important.
onto that.
I just want to make sure that they follow their,
Well, but the
There.
budget, I think we're done with that discussion.
Yeah, we're good.
Well, I think that the electronic medical record is an important thing, and I think that, I don't think you're ready to submit a resolution at this point because you don't know what you want to do, and I fully agree with you that you should have a consultant. You would, well, our clinic originally was with Next Gen, and then we Epic. Lots of people, Epic Mayo Clinic just switched.
Everybody's on it.
The hard part is we're Health and Human Services, which is different than just the clinic.
yeah.
So there's no way we could have Epic here.
Okay,
At all.
so I didn't suggest you needed Epic.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying
I'm
it's,
just showing you this as an example that once we had a consultant in, that's what they recommend. And you may have a consultant come in and say, yeah, with these little tweaks that our electronic medical record improved to the functionality that you're happy with, or if you can't do that, then you have to put in another provider.
Don and Chad, the question would be, when we get a number, dollar figure on those electronic records, you know, part of it for the sheriff's department, can that be submitted at any other time during our?
Well, so anything that does not get addressed by Tuesday night, even if it's ARPA money, has to come in the form of a budget amendment. Anything that alters the budget after adopted Tuesday night has to be in the form of a budget, which will go through the standard amendment process and go to general government, then it goes to county board, and it's.
That was my question,
It's a
but
two-
it is possible.
It is possible by a 2/3 vote for a budgetary amendment.
But it could then be a part of the 2023 budget and go through the normal
It could go through the
process,
normal procedure for
especially for that
2023,
second
right?
basket. If we
They might advance to that.
And sometime during 2023, and then this might require a budget amendment, but you still got the 4.25 million. Anticipate getting that money, and we could, I suspect, evaluate. I mean, if you look through all these projects, obviously we can't do all of them, but there are some very important things on there that we have to prioritize. And so then hopefully we got that 4.25 million to still
want to
do
do
it. So for example, this committee looks at records, electronic records. Well, another committee might look at broadband. Another committee will look at, a road, and those types of things.
funds they have to be allocated or designated by 2024,
Yes,
correct?
the end
So
of-
we have time. It's just everybody's in a mad rush now because
Right.
the resolutions are coming in, right? So,
Figure there.
so we can slow down, maybe like look at the top priorities and then.
So
slow down.
when I get all the directors' requests to me, as well as those from the community and so on, I push back and I get a little grumpy with them because, they just, when they open it up to their staff has great ideas. And boom, 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 boom. And they go, now go get it for us, Tom. get it for us. And I have to push back and say, prioritize, tell me what, tell me why. I just got these this morning. Actually, they were sent to me yesterday. I was out. So it's a little premature probably to say, I want a resolution to approve electronic records because we don't know what we're talking about yet.
But my concern remains that, and Sharon, I'm sure shares this, is that we don't have time really because the budget is getting spent. You know what I mean?
First half. If,
Well, except for when the second half rolls in, we're all going to be doing the same thing. And so unless we say pause, each committee needs to take this prioritization process, we're going to be outgunned on the electronics or whatever we want.
So a resolution.
To ask for a pause.
I think that would be a mechanism by which, and you might be one of the few ones, there's pretty universal agreement on it, saying that we're going to look at maybe the next budget cycle, but to prevent the one-offs, because if not, then it, because it's the tragedy of the commons and people saying there's a limited resource, if I don't get it now, I won't ever get it, because somebody else is going to take it, unless there is a legislative pause by a resolution. I think that would be the only mechanism by which.
Well, Amy, my question was to Don and to Chad was, maybe this is an item, once we get a figure that can be done during the year without ARPA funds, but it can still be achieved.
Well, you could always look at using fund balance or something.
Yeah.
I will remind the committee, and for people that are new, this county has historically passed very, very few budget amendments. Yeah. We are not a county that amends our budget much at all.
But this could be a possibility.
So,
it wouldn't be dead just because it doesn't come through ARPA funds. We don't have that figure. William, my question to you would be, so Sharon has got this resolution.
John, your phone, can you check it out?
I don't even know how to do that.
Well, while he's shutting his phone up, just a couple of things. So I'm glancing up at the board up here and it says county board priorities. So if I look at this list here, and if I was a person who was submitting one of these items, if it didn't come under the county board priorities and it wasn't clear and convincing to me that it came under those priorities, then I don't think I would have a chance in getting money.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, I know, for example, recycling center is important, bang, that was great that got approved. The next one would be, to me, the Justice Center roof. Now, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, that is like 7 or 8 or 9 years overdue to get that roof replaced. That needs to get done. I hate to be over there for a meeting and have the roof collapse on me. But all kidding aside, in a long-range plan, and I don't know how the county does that, if it's 3, 5, 10-year plan, has that been in the budget to replace that roof? I don't know that. I have not gone line by line to get that done. That needs to get done. I mean, that's a huge priority. Is it something that needs to be in the budget or something that can be approved with these ARPA funds? I don't know. That's not my decision. One of the other things that jumped out at me right away would be that command center. We talked a little bit about that for the sheriff's department. That's way overdue. I think for emergency things, that needs to get done. So there are things that jump out at me, but they need to follow those county board priorities, at least that I see on the wall. And that has to be boilerplate. So if I was a supervisor, in the county, I need to be clear and convincing to the county administrator and to the county board that I need that. And for example, I think that's a great idea to take some of these and combine them into a request as a group project rather than individual merit. Electronic health records, that's extremely important, at least to me.
That's the key.
That's the key to me. And I know how that works because everybody has a me thing when they present it. But again, it has to be clear and convincing. There's some great things in here coming in from the communities. But I think one of the things that always jumps out at me for priority is health and public safety. In my mind, that's number one. And what do I know? But health and public safety, I mean, that's, everything I hear runs on that little premise. Okay, so I got my quarters worth in.
Bill, that was a prime statement, because that was my question. If we take that 2.6 million and all these things in a resolution, then that pretty much washes out everything else. And now you brought up, I agree, wouldn't the roof on the Justice Center be under capital improvement? Why does that come under ARPA funds?
Yeah.
Well, one of the suggestions for ARPA funds was to use it to address the capital improvement. So it is in the capital improvement. So,
So that takes away some of the other priorities that Bill talked. I think it should, all those things, to me, that are under capital improvements should be funded under the budget capital.
well, but then the board has to decide. Our capital improvement plan, I just finished the revision, is like $23 million over 5 years. The board would then have to decide, are we going to borrow money to pay for that capital improvement plan? Are we going to offset that borrowing with the ARPA funds?
And that's
Ultimately,
kind of
that's
been
a
our
policy
position,
decision.
just like the highway building or some of the other things. To me, those are budget, and if you put those under this AARP, you're just eliminating some other major priorities that.
Well, be fair. Historically, a lot of capital improvement plans by county boards get put off. They keep getting put off. They
It's
keep getting
been
put off.
been the tradition in Polk County. That's what happened.
It is.
Recycle center.
And so what we looked at is what are our priorities? And in my budget, what we tried to do is target those priorities. And then we said, you know what, we've got some other things that could we do it this year, could we put it off a year, 2 years? And we said, let's let the board decide. For example, on the roof, 1.1 million. Do you want it to come out of the budget, take it out of the general fund, or do you want to pay for it through ARPA? And so that's why it was put on here. And I think, the resolution is to say, here's some things that we put off. We can get caught up. And I can tell you right now, Chad's doing a great job of whenever we do these things now, we spend money on software, we spend money on programs, we put in general maintenance, and we put in a plan in our capital investment plan to how we're going to pay for it when it needs to be replaced. But we are playing catch up.
And your resolution doesn't, yours is straight up ARPA money, because that nuance with this resolution is lost in that we don't have the ability to have the discussion, oh, we really want it in the capital improvement section. We don't want it in ARPA.
Yeah. She's saying ARPA funds will pay for it.
I know.
Yeah, but I did look at priorities. I agree with you. The public safety, that's the radio system things, the infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Those are things that to me are essential. And they're ready to go with things. We know, we have the estimates, we know what, not to say other things aren't important. But I think we need to be able to, like, you're going to need to get information, more information to understand what you really want to do with the electronic records. And that's an important thing too. But you need more information. But that's a good thing to either prepare it to me for next year's budget or for the next year's ARPA funds. Because then you'd have that ready to, it would be ready to go by then.
So, another way to look at this is to say, what is it that we know we want to do or think needs to be done and can decide on? The electronic records is a great idea. The challenge will be, how does that compare with Bob's LiDAR, hydrography mapping?
Yeah.
Does that compare with Farmington's Gator building project? How does that compare? So, and what this does, I think it's shovel ready to say, here's what we know needs to be done. It's county funding. Can we take care of this right now? Yes.
Can
we have things like this sort of, are things like this sort of software updates, tweaking, is that in our capital improvement? It's not a hard, that should be sort of infrastructure stuff. that
Oh,
should be-
so if it's IT related, our servers, our software plans and all that, it is. The departments submit each of their capital plans and we integrate it into it. And now I can tell you these specific things are not in these.
Yeah, I mean, I knew these are new, but I mean, it seems like we should build in some capacity so you guys have every year a chance to help.
The historical problem here is that every year we end up providing mandated services to the public. So if we go over budget, our capital requests get denied. We happen to have had a few good years, so that's why we've gotten these ones approved, because we're not having to tap into the general fund to pay for those mandated services that we need to.
And we are making enhancements to our EHR and forms and updating that. I think we didn't have this EHR was the county's first time having one for the Community Services Division. So when you don't know what you need, that's where we're struggling now, is we now realize, oh, we should have made our forms look like this, or we needed these other things. So that's where we're at this point. We've used it for several years. We're ready to really jump in and do it. We do make changes and enhancements as we go, but there's just a cost associated to it. And some of the bigger things, some of the enhancements they do for us are free. They'll fix things, no cost to it. It's just bigger items for our current
You can
EHR.
somehow figure out a mechanism to make sure that your stuff isn't denied if you go over, because the reason you go over is because you provided more services. So you shouldn't be penalized because you need more computer.
And I'm just saying that's historically, that's what's happened. I mean, there's new people.
Right. Anyway, you hear what I'm saying. It should be built in somehow.
Bill,
I'd like to hear from the two gentlemen that are the guests here. And I know that both of them can be clear and convincing for projects. So, what is it that they're looking at and why do you need it? That's important to me, as a board member, I want to hear, it must be important if they're here. So I certainly would like to listen to them to see what they need and why they need it.
Don,
I'll start with the microwave radio system. That's 16 years old. It's failing. It's something that needs to be replaced. As far as I know, I don't recall ever seeing it in a capital improvement plan to get it repaired or replaced.
what capital?
So we need to get it, yeah, so we need, this gives us a definite opportunity, and this was on our plate way before the ARPA funds came out. We were looking at getting this replaced. But just coming up with $1.1 million to do it is tough.
I can add to that, when we built these towers, the towers were supposed to be there for 10 years.
So here's some background on the radio system. The radio system was built 16 years ago.
Yep.
When the radio system was built, there were several shortcuts taken. A number of things we encountered in the past few years, which we have built into the plan, is, for instance, the car radios and handheld radios realistically have a 13-year lifespan. Ours were about 16 years old. So 2 years ago, we built into the capital plan, replacing the car radios and the patrol radios. And there's a recycling system now in place in the capital plan to replace those every 10 years. For the dispatch terminals, last year, I got to get my year straight, we entered into a 10-year agreement at $120,000 a year to keep the dispatch terminals updated for the next 10 years. So they're on a recycling plan. What has happened is the microwave system has gone into a sudden near state of failure because it's so aged, just like our radio towers. We started doing repairs to the radio towers about 3 years ago. We were never doing what are called tower climbs. Every other year, you're supposed to climb the towers, have a company climb the towers, tighten all the bolts, tighten all the cabling, tighten the antennas, realign the antennas, that kind of stuff. We didn't build that into the budget until about 3 years ago in 2018. When I crafted the first budget when I was here, we started building that in. So the radio system is getting implemented into the capital plan, but it was our habit of building things and dealing with them when they broke, just like the Justice Center roof or something else. And that's what's happened with the radio system. So now we've moved the sheriff's office a long way to have a recycling program. In 10 years, we'll get new car radios again. We've moved a long way. The sheriff's office puts money into the asset protection fund from its levy each year to pay for those refreshers when they come up in 10 years. So there's now a system but it takes a while. Facilities is a fine example. Facilities has a good portion budgeted this year from levy dollars for some just general maintenance, which we have not really maintained. So Mo and Rod have come up with a facilities maintenance plan that we're starting to put in. You know, this has just been, it's a different philosophical thought. We'll deal with it when it breaks, or we'll keep things running and make sure that we never get to that critical point. Unfortunately, with things like Don's microwave system, just like we got to with the car radios 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we got to with the dispatch terminals 2 years ago, get to those critical points, we have to deal with it because there was never a plan in place to deal with it. And then we put a plan in place so that we never get there again, that we're ready for the next time it has to be done.
Just for example, what he's really emphasizing on there, they'll give you an example what happened on the county board, how important just some certain thing can be. When we bought these last radio systems, there was a incident where a guy was working under a car and the car fell on him. And in the first month we got these new radio systems, the signal got to us in time, where just a month before that, if we hadn't had that, that would have been a fatality. So you take some of these, like Bill said, some of these important life-saving or things that are to keep current against some things that if we put money that should have been in capital improvement, gotta be careful what we're sacrificing. Every one of you people on the board, I want to hear what you got to say, because if we pass something that is going to take up the rest of the ARPA money and wash everything out, that's something that I feel probably made a mistake on.
Or would like, I do have a PowerPoint presentation.
We should
Let's
save that
move
for-
over to, go ahead, Doug.
So I guess for that public safety radio site, 400, is that in part of your resolution for St. Croix Falls Valley there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's really important
It is.
for public safety.
And to Don's credit, Don brought that price down a lot by the time we got.
We're down to 350,000.
Tanya, what is it?
I wonder if we should bring that back, talk about the health and human service items on this committee. Don came to talk about the command post because that's a shared request from both of our departments. Yes, safety, but maybe that goes later on this afternoon in the safety committee. So if you want to hear the rest of our ARPA ideas, we can put those forward to you. But also, like Malia said, maybe we do have a resolution to somebody sponsor something to slow it down so we can.
You want to bring some
take our
more
time and-
information on the command post?
I can present it if you guys would like.
So
Yeah,
Don-
but we'll go from you and then we gotta hear from Mo.
Okay, Don is
Your request.
done.
so do you want to talk about command posts because you had some information on that?
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Roger Springer.
This is my presentation on the command post. It's pretty short and sweet. We'll walk you through it. So in 2004, we bought this Winnebago command post. We were able to get this command post with our, or not our, but FEMA funds from after 9/11.
And it was used.
I think it was brand new. It was a chassis that they configured to what we needed to. So it came with a post 9/11 funds in order to get most agencies, when they have a national emergency like 9/11, COVID, they tend to get things like this. So here we are in 2018, we did a bunch of upgrades to the command post, computers, printers, and a little bit of radio system to it. And nowadays we're using it for vaccinations. Before, the command post got limited use. We used it for fairs, big events like missing persons, fires, natural disasters. The big thing about the command post is that it's our sole backup communication communication center for dispatch. So if dispatch goes down, let's say we have a bomb threat in the building, something happens to our building, our dispatchers can go to that mobile command center. There's 2 workstations there where our dispatchers can link in and start doing some communications. It's not ideal right now. Our goal is to eventually get it up to where we could actually have our CAD system in there. Right now, it's just, should something bad happen, they can get in there and dispatch units where they need to be. Other functions that we use the command post currently for, on-site security, like the fair, we have a big camera mast that goes up there. We can watch the fair. You know, it's our information booth. For ham radio, they do their once a year talk around the world through it. Basically anything that requires law enforcement, fire, some big event where we need to coordinate people around, use that. Currently, we're using it for COVID vaccinations, testing. We came up with 108 times we've used it so far. I mean, it's getting used, and it's getting to the point where we have this 20-year-old vehicle, and now we're using the heck out of it. It's getting wore out pretty quickly. Our generator's failing on it. Just the slide out is failing on it. It's just a lot of parts moving on it now more. And it's 20 years old, so it's starting to really getting wore out. More cost placed on it. Found that most chassis cost about $450,000 just to get a chassis type system that we want to, and then about another $100,000 to get it configured the way we want it. That's putting in camera systems, radio systems, but just a shell of a vehicle with some minor features, about $450,000. So we're looking at a total cost of about $550,000 to get a command post reconfigured for law enforcement and public health can use it together.
Yeah, so the public health would plan on sharing the vehicle with the sheriff's department. So we've used it a lot for COVID. We would be able to provide more mobile clinics if there were health needs out in the community. If we do have disasters like the tornado where we partner, we would be able to go out on site and provide the public health piece along with the law enforcement pieces.
Don, I remember this was before you were in the department, but I remember when they had the tornado at Siren, how they came to the board and they from each county they came to the command post and they told us how critical and probably life-saving the command, and pretty much the same thing that went through Comstock and Turtle Lake. And those 2 tornadoes, command posts, they could be right there, and so that was the center rather. Well, do we go in this building or that building?
Been big for missing persons. You know, we used it up in Burnett when that gentleman walked away from the camp. We've used it for another juvenile runaway that we had. I mean, we need something where we coordinate a lot of people, something that allows us to have heat and air, power.
And I will say it was during the tornadoes of 2019, it was not functional enough to be of any help for us for those tornadoes. And there's a lot of, as Don said, there's a lot of different specs on a command post. You can do them with sleeping quarters on there. You can do them where they can pull a shower trailer, you know, so you can, which, you know, showers were actually an issue in 2019. We had to arrange for showering facilities. There's a lot you can do with them. There's a lot of different configurations, but because ours, another example of us not putting money in things to keep it up, because it wasn't functional communication wise and air conditioner wise and all that during 2019, where it would have been a nice resource for me to have with the National Guard, the command center, we weren't able to.
I have a feel for, I suppose it's 100% right now with COVID, but like what's the split between your department and your department of the use?
Pre-COVID, probably 0 for public health. I mean,
Yeah.
we bring it to, you know, any event like they had career day, we bring it there and set it up for people. You know, just basically public information got used for the most. It was available to other counties if they needed it, but we just never got
Any other questions for Don?
John? I think one of the real important things, Don, that you brought up is that if your 911 center goes down, you have no other place to go but to your command post.
Right.
And I think that's a selling point on the top.
That's right.
I mean, if you're down, you're down. And then what do you do?
Trying to get something set up in a quick hurry where people need to communicate. I mean, this thing, we can roll it out in the parking lot, turn it on, fire the generator up, and our dispatchers can go right to work on it. Some counties, like St. Croix County, is fortunate enough, they have a remote building that they can dispatch. But this is our dispatch center.
I think that's critical. I mean, I used to have responsibility for call centers. I split them into 2 buildings so they could take orders for windows because it was that important to the company to keep things going. And they had to be on 2 different grid systems because if electricity went down on one grid, they could still work over there. And it was critical. I think this is another critical thing that we should be looking at too. I agree.
I think that this would be actually more important, just which could be delayed for a year.
Should be under capital improvement.
Could be under capital.
Well, this is the thing that I wanted to bring out for discussion because Bill, you brought out the things that are really affect people's lives and possibly life-saving.
Yeah.
And Dr. Locke, you put that against the capital improvement project.
Well, I mean.
Our recycle center was good, but it's really the fault of the history of the board where there should have been money put away in capital improvement. And here's something where it affects lives, life-saving, life futures. And let's keep that on top.
The other thing is we will likely have more viruses. I mean, I think COVID's not the last. There'll be more public health needs down the
Good
road.
point.
Because his system could fail tomorrow. Whereas I would hope that the Justice Center roof wouldn't start leaking.
Dr. Mose, you had some things you want to bring up?
Well, I really thank you. I came really to hear the discussion on it as it pertains to the CIPs and stuff. Just about everything that was submitted in the ARPA funds is in a CIP. The capital improvement program for future years. Again, only the current year is funded in those. Everything else is just listing out your priorities, which has been the issue in the past, the capital improvement projects being left behind. The museum bell tower, we just got the report back on that, on its condition from the engineers, with the rotten health and safety for that one. The premature failure of the Justice Center roof, it's blistered, we do have leaks from time to time, but when you have funds as ARPA that come in, typically, what that does is for a director like myself is I look at our CIP, whether it's a county road B that I have in there that I have scheduled right now for 2028, allows me to advance that project. The Justice Center roof allows me to advance that earlier, plug something else back in there. Typically, when you have extra funding, that's kind of way you look at it. Every department has needs. Electronic ones, and those are really hard to do because as it gets to the board, an example, the playground equipment I put into ARPA and I put into the budget. ES committee approved it in the budget. So it's not part of the ARPA stuff on there. The recycling center is the example. You can put it in the CIP all you want, but if it's not funded, you put it in the next year and try it again next year. But it just gets delayed till you don't put it in the CIP anymore. I'm not here to ask for projects or anything like that. I just wanted to hear the discussion and see how the budget portion of it went.
Well,
Mo, you should.
It's that scenario, Dr. Mo, that's important. Being here.
You're clear and convincing. You should get some more of those projects in there. You get them approved.
Malia, my question would be to you, Sharon's resolution. So it really starts with this Health and Human Services Committee. So if,
It isn't on the agenda for this committee.
well, if we looked at, I thought under number 10, discussion possible action regarding administrative budget and potential amendment.
That's the budget.
Separate from ARPA funds.
Yeah, it's separate from ARPA fund, but can't we, my question was to you, can't we talk about this could be possible an amendment? I don't think it will be, but I thought we could talk about it on the agenda under that.
Well, you could talk about how, in order to tie it in, it would have to be how it would impact the budget if it were something that you wanted to amend into the budget or otherwise funded by ARPA.
And you could propose,
How do we
at
know?
this
if we're gonna-
meeting, you guys could propose spending out of the budget, exclusive of the ARPA dollars, out of the budget. We would need to discuss how that would be funded if you were going to propose it.
That was my question. So where it says budget under number 10, I thought we can legally discuss it.
Oh, yes, I don't think you're violating the open meetings law.
That was my question. So if you look at Sharon's priority items there, and it's gonna go to a committee, normally, if he's on this committee would vote nay or on that
Well,
resolution.
Mr. Chair, if those priority items, if what she's proposing fall under the purview of this committee, but just like recycling, that falls under the purview of a different committee, so it went to that committee. So with Supervisor Kelly's items, those fall under Public Safety and Public Works, so they fall under the Public Safety, Public Works Committee. You would want to,
Today and.
you would only want to discuss at your committee, any budget amendments falling under the purview of this
So could we add the command post to Supervisor Kelly's?
You wouldn't add it to Supervisor Kelly's proposal, because that resolution's not on the floor. You can make a recommendation for an amendment to the budget out of the fund balance for those items.
I would propose that the command post be added through the, I don't know the wording. You could help
So
me.
you would be recommending that to be an amendment recommended from this committee to be considered next Tuesday at the county board after the public hearing on the budget.
It would be an amendment to the budget, I believe, Dr.
Full budget.
Yeah.
That's what, right?
Yeah, and so that would be totally funded by fund balance because levy has been expended for this year.
So that would be a first, and then you would need a second.
Second. Absolutely.
But you would also need to assign a dollar value to that amendment.
I believe the dollar value is there, isn't it? 450,000.
That was a spitball. Again, some of these come to me and say, hey, we'd like this. And I ask, what's it gonna cost? I don't know. This much. It could, I think I put as low as 300,000 there, as much as 800,000. I don't know. We just ballpark because it's not just your regular motor home. Your
The way I see that, Administrator, is 450 for the chassis and 100, a total of 550 would be the figure that we'd be asking for on the budget amendment. Correct?
Don, is that going to work at 550? I mean, for what you're looking to do to upgrade or to get what the necessities that you need?
Yes, we can get it quite.
Say not to exceed.
Okay, I do feel like as the finance director, I got to give this caution, okay? We are going into a very rough economic time that will have impact on us. We had a good 2020 because of federal funding, but we do not know what's going to happen. Inflation is up, stagnation is here. We don't know what's going to happen. In 2008, when the county hit its roughest time, 2008 to 2010, the county was $5.8 million at one point in arrears on property tax, which is why the county has taken such a conservative posture for the last decade plus. So I just caution everybody, you're talking about spending $500,000 plus a fund balance. I don't know, I just put that caution out there. I know I'm very negative about it, but
Just remember,
you got to be cautious.
all this right here is full of spending. We are spending a lot of money. That's why now we're looking at the ARPA funds as something extra to say, this is something we can deal with as a priority. And that's why I think the board, that's why each committee is not deciding, but rather it's going up through the board.
We have on our agenda, budget and potential amendments. So this committee wants to take action on your motion. Right?
We're still under discussion.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
Yeah, there's been a first and second.
I'll go back to my, my thoughts on this. I think you're gonna have to help us in terms of, whether these money come out of the ARPA funds or they come out of the annual budget. The issue is that this is a critical issue, probably as critical as that tower in St. Croix Falls for $450,000 out of the sheriff's department community. And if their command center goes down, everything goes down. And so I think it doesn't matter to me which pocket you take it out of.
So really, this isn't a health, the command center, the roof at the Justice Center is not a health and human services topic.
No.
The ARPA funds, I think is a topic for you to discuss if it deals with health and human services. Then what I'm just looking, in my mind, what that says is what's important to this committee, important. What's important to every other committee is important too, and that's where the full board decides which is more important.
So it doesn't matter to me whether the money comes out of ARPA or it comes out of the budget. If the budget is too tight, let's try to get it out of ARPA.
So what you could do, and this would be, I think, a friendly amendment, as long as the first and the second agree, that you would still recommend it as a 2022 budget amendment to be funded from ARPA funds, not from the fund balance.
Yes.
And make that recommendation.
That would make sense.
Now, if it's heard before Sharon's other resolution, that might adjust the amount of residual that is there, notwithstanding the second batch, if that eventually comes in. But that way, at least getting the topic up, saying that this committee recommends it, saying that they recommend it for the 2022 budget to be funded from ARPA, not the fund balance.
I accept your friendly amendment.
Yes.
Will you accept the?
Yes. The point, I think the point, Malia, that I think that the committee is trying to make, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think the point is that it seems to be critical that that's a high priority for the committee. So as Dr. Lagas indicated, from one point or the other, that money should come from someplace. And I guess my one question to either the county administrator or to the CEO over here, the finance chair for the county would be, so you had talked about sales tax coming into the county at one point to us and said
That was my next
it
point.
came in quite heavily this last year, 2020. So I take it that has been built into the budget and that's pretty much exhausted.
We are much, so, response we've gotten from the board, especially over the last year, is that the county always under budgeted for sales tax. So we use a fact-based system for sales tax now. We have budgeted 95% of the state's predictions for our sales tax. We've left a 5% buffer. I would not recommend that we deviate. We need that 5% buffer.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
what's incorporated in the administrator's budget for a balanced budget using only levy dollars in sales tax is assuming 95% of our projected sales tax for 2020.
But to go back to that, I think it's important that we send our recommendation from this committee to the county board and to your other committees, that we feel it's important that one way or the other that center go through, because it has many more implications than most people think. I think it's huge to bring that up again, that if that center, that 911 center goes down in the sheriff's department over there, you don't have a backup. Maybe that's something that you don't want out, but it's critical that you have a backup someplace. I mean, you can't have every deputy talking on a cell phone at the same time, on a conference call. That's, So,
Chad, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't add to your caution. I just got back from I'm the representative to the Wisconsin Counties Association Steering Committee. And I had a meeting Thursday in Stevens Point and Friday in Wisconsin Rapids. And there's a warning that our Andy Phillips, our council, gave to us that the counties are not going to see the money in 22 that they had in 21 because of the federal money that came into the county. And so they kind of gave us, well, they flat out gave us a warning, in our budget to be careful because the trend that has been in sales tax and everything else is probably not going to be there.
And the other thing came up with sales taxes on the purview to come out in 2022 that will have deep implications if it happens. Because there's a lawsuit in Brown County for sales tax that's now at the Supreme Court. And it has gone back and forth between district and the circuit is now at the Supreme. And if it goes against Brown County, it's going to go against all the counties, and we will lose a lot of sales tax money. That sucker is a big case that's out there, and that just came up on the WCA call this week. That it's at the Supreme Court. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Of course, all the counties are against the court's ruling against us, but it has severe implications on sales tax.
Well, even Andy Phillips said that we have a conservative Supreme Court. So the idea of adding something to our, $500,000 to our budget, there's always that chance that you don't want to increase the tax levy. That's a bad rep to Polk County. And so far, unless we have a lot of amendments, your tax levy will be pretty much status quo, won't it?
Yeah, our levy was up $278,000 this year, which is very minimal.
So Malia, the way you got that worded, that it'll actually come back to funding under the ARPA funds.
It could, but that could be the recommendation.
Wouldn't another option be at the county board meeting when it comes before the county board that there can be amendments made to the resolution at that time?
Sharon's resolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another option.
If we know it's specifically going to go into your resolution, I would recommend that we amend the budget because it really is an entirely new topic on a specific resolution so that we comply with the open meeting law. But there wouldn't be an issue. Yes,
We
that
have to amend the budget.
Well, I think Dr. Logis' resolution, what he's looking for is for you to kind of tweak it and word it correctly, right?
So we can take it out of ARPA.
Yes, you could do it that way. You could also amend Sharon's budget, Sharon's budget. Amend your resolution. But if we were to add another topic to a resolution that's already been posted, that's the only reason why I would say
Make it.
that we would need to amend the agenda thing.
Is her final resolution posted?
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
it-
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Malia, is her final resolution posted?
Yeah, it is.
It's being discussed this afternoon at Public Safety, Public Works.
Well, it's not acted on.
Not from that committee, it hasn't been moved up yet.
But if we pass my motion, could that motion also go to the public committee this afternoon?
It would be a part of the budget. It is a part of Public Safety, Public Works, so it would be appropriate. Is that topic on the? I mean,
And her resolution's on the agenda for public safety, public.
right. And that's a Public Safety, Public Works.
So I think if you tied it in.
Yeah.
We'll tie in Dr. Logis' motion to this discussion.
Rather than have this committee vote. But one way or another, this committee expressing a desire that this become a priority.
I think
Whether
we
it's
should vote that it is a priority and then you can.
So rather than recommend an amendment, you're just a motion that the county board be informed that this committee
Use
sees
the
that
command
this
post
is
as a
a
priority item.
Yeah.
friendly.
The question would come up, if it's a standalone resolution, would it have a better chance of passing if it was that standalone resolution compared to being part of Sharon's resolution?
I think it would, Bill.
Because the question would be then, if with your resolution, can the county board say, we'll take part of this and not all of it? So I'm looking at like an item veto. I mean, can you say, we'll accept this, but we're not going to accept this?
Yeah, people can make amendments to either split and make them each individual or to.
So I guess my question here, if I was a betting person, what are our odds of saying we want a standalone resolution coming here from Dr.
It would depend on where in the agenda it falls. If
Well,
it's
you
one
wanted
of
the first thing on the agenda because they always pass those things.
Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead.
You can fix that.
So what
It's like judge shopping.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to say that.
So should this committee act on this? So say, for example, a person was going to make an amendment to Sharon's resolution that said something like, I haven't looked at the exact numbers, take this item out and substitute in the command center. And then that amendment goes to the resolution, the board gets a first and a second, it gets voted on. Does this committee need to do would it be helpful? I guess we have enough discussion. It wouldn't be helpful to have any action.
I mean, I don't think you can take anything out that she's already got in there.
I can take I can
Make an amendment.
on the
Yeah,
resolution.
Under amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
correct.
do that.
But I think what they're talking about is the standalone resolution. To me, to the board, that would make more sense.
I'm trying to figure out other ways to skin the cat.
No, I think I think it would be more impressive that if the health committee really is in favor of my resolution. And then they can handle it
Okay.
either
So
as
let's have a vote.
a single item, or they can attach it to the ARPA funds
Okay.
and Kelly's
Yeah.
resolution.
So you want to have a vote then?
I do want to have a vote.
So this vote would simply be, as the friendly changes have been made, to express to the county board that the Health and Human Services Board believes that a new command center not to exceed 550,000 is a priority for public safety and public health. Whether it comes from ARPA fund balance or some other mechanism. So
Right.
really just without designating where, just expressing that in the process, that's a priority. Okay.
Okay, I think we've had discussion on that. I think that's very clear. And I hope we can pass that on unanimous, and I'll call for a on resolution. We just spoke. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimous. So you'll write that up in the resolution form of it?
I'm not going to make it a resolution. You as the chair are going to inform.
Yeah, I
the
should have
county
said
board. You're going to.
priority item.
Yes,
Priority item.
and I'll help you with that on Tuesday.
And thanks, Dr. Loggins and Bill, because
Well, thank you.
I think that's extremely important to me.
Can she recall what she's got, and then we can make sure the minutes reflect what?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can do that after or, okay.
So Tanya, being the chair of basically this committee, would you be the one that would present this as a priority item from our committee?
I think Don and I could do.
Yeah, it would be,
If they have
but
questions.
you're representing the committee, not Don. So if you're representing a committee in conjunction with his, each one would have something to say about that. Donna would be the one that would come up with the numbers, and you bring it in your report, and he'd come up with the numbers. You'd express unanimous support for a priority item, correct?
I also would think it would be important, though, John, that you as the chair of this committee
Yeah, they always ask for the chair.
Right, but I think it would be important for the people, the county board supervisors who are on this committee to certainly speak to that.
Yeah.
And get your pennies worth in so that they know it's a huge priority. And I don't know if,
Yeah, well, our three county supervisors that are here will generate the support. I'm sure that, the county chair always asks the chair of the committee, how the vote went and
You're
reinforce it so they.
And I think, in addition to the command center, the command center, 911 goes down, you have to mention that by 19, that during that tornado, they were not able.
Okay, well, awesome discussion on that. I think we made a lot of progress. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair, I think we got through one of Tanya's 2 items. Could I look back with Tanya to finish?
Tanya's next on the agenda.
This is still ARPA.
Floor.
This is still ARPA discussion,
Yes.
right? Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. These items would be up for down the road discussion and prioritization, correct?
Sorry, say it again.
These items would be earmarked for down the road
We're going to prioritize that.
prioritization and not now. We don't have to decide now.
Because we're not quite ready to discuss.
Yeah, we're not, these are just ideas that we want you to keep in your mind for.
That'll be on future agendas.
So again, with emergency management, we would be working with Lisa McMahon on a new command system. We currently have Code Red and there's mixed feelings on that. So we would want to do some more work on an emergency notification system, much like the command post. It's a way to get information out to people. So looking at either enhancing Code Red or do we look at a completely new system altogether? And we just need the time to be able to do the research and figure out a couple of options to present. The Family Connects program, we've talked about this in the past. We do have money earmarked for it to get our staff trained on it. And what I will say about Family Connects is that the big highlight is that it is, I think it's an evidence-based program that I think it reduces the need for child welfare services down the road by 44%. So that's pretty huge for us. Everybody in our department is in agreement with it because if we can prevent a child from having to go through the child welfare system, that's worth whatever. So some additional funding to have the Family Connects group come here to provide that training to our public health staff. Another thing that got thrown out is water testing in-house labs. And this is more of like it's an infrastructure, health and safety, environment and clean water. So we would, rather than having to send our water tests out, we would just have something in-house that could provide water testing. And then the other thing, staff safety. We're pretty passionate about staff safety here. This is more staff safety in the field. So there are some applications that you can buy. So when the social worker goes into the house, they can hit a button and something happens in the house, this will detect and kind of looks out for their safety, make sure they make it out okay. We don't have anything in place like that right now. And our staff do go into some touchy situations, much like law enforcement. Sometimes they're together. So those are I think those are the big ones that we would highlight. We do have on here some staff position, but I believe that I can work that into the budget and open FTE right now. I don't need to use ARPA money considering for that because it would be more of an ongoing expense.
Any other questions for Tanya? Don, does your department want to talk to Lisa McMahon? She should be at the board meeting. She's my neighbor. I could talk to her. You guys be more official, Sheriff Walker. other that we took up the command post. Okay, thanks. Lisa, that, or Tanya, that take care of everything on your agenda?
You know, one more, I forgot, the, a shelter for the fleet vehicles out back. We spend a lot of time de-icing vehicles. This would be countywide, but our staff are the main users of those fleet vehicles. And there's a lot of shoveling, nurses shoveling and de-icing vehicles in the wintertime, some type of shelter. Those vehicles.
Winter, that's,
Unless you guys want to come and shovel us all.
are you from Arizona? Ask it.
All right. We'll find you a cheap flight. You could come and shovel us.
Any other questions from the administrator, anybody? Thank you, Mo, Chad. Vince, Leah. Just one other thing, number 12 is the topic last Friday at Wisconsin Rapids was Health and Human Services. Dan Farr was the moderator, and I left with Patty. I left her the agendas from Thursday and Friday. Everything right now is a legislative proposal for the 22 legislature, so there wasn't anything new there. Subject matters, Tanya, that'll be.
I do, we do have our work plan, and I would like to add a presentation for drug-free communities, or not drug-free communities, the drug endangered children's program. We just sent a bunch of staff to Nashville to be trained at their national conference, and I want to bring those, that's the staff in here to talk about what all they learned and how they're going to incorporate it into our
Nice to get that
drug endangered
report.
children's programming here.
Will I have 14, John?
I will be back. I'll be back for our December meeting. I think. Future agenda on that is plan on being gone in January, typically in February. Having the future agenda. And after that, we'll be having a new board coming April. Been good having discussion. Thank you, Bill and Amy and Lita for makes a good meeting when we can kind of stay on the agenda and have some open discussion. If it wouldn't have been for that, we wouldn't have brought up this.
Yeah,
What are your chances of having the same supervisors back on the committee? After, you guys get a priority of committees that they can be on, or other supervisors get a chance? You know,
We do get a chance to kind of submit on the board.
First priority to stay on what you're at.
Okay.
But that format could change too.
Well,
It
true.
can.
Yeah.
what do you think is your chances of getting the command center?
I'm not a betting person today.
That's a good answer.
Refuse to answer that question because of
But
incriminating.
not today.
I think with, if we can present it in a proper manner, and there again, Dr. Lagas or Bill, if either one of you can, you're just as important to public comments as anybody. And
When is your?
we would sure like to hear something at public comment next Tuesday. And typically, the board meeting is always on the third Tuesday, but the Wisconsin legislature statute says that you have to pass the budget on the second Tuesday.
Right.
So it happens to be the 9th.
What time is that?
6 o'clock, and public comments is probably right 10 after.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to hear something besides CAFO, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Can you do public comments on WebEx?
I think you
Oh,
just-
yeah, definitely we can have
I'll
WebEx.
be out of town.
I think you need to connect with the county clerk though to do that.
Yeah.
County clerk to do it.
Would you be able to, are you someplace?
I'm gonna be in Hawaii, but I can get on, if it's WebEx.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Bill, if you can make some comments, I think
that
it
would
would
help.
be extremely
Yeah, I
important.
was just looking. I don't have a basketball game that
You
night.
shouldn't have yet.
Good. Well, I start tonight. I got middle school tonight, so they started already. And we move up the ladder.
This is really good discussion, Bill.
Well, I talked to Tanya before the meeting, when I shouldn't, you're having adjourned. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Madam Clerk. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Can I just ask one quick question, even though it's over?